Charles sighed as he realized what was going on. He just walked into this motel next to the highway, and outside, he had seen a sign saying that there were still 48 rooms available. The woman behind the counter, however, was telling him that all the rooms were taken already. This wasn't the first time that someone treated Charles like this, but he wasn't going to argue. He knew from experience that that never worked. Instead, he was going to do something much worse, and his revenge would be sweet. But before we start, make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Charles sat in his car for a while, waiting until he felt that the time was right to put his plan into action. He looked at the many new guests who entered the motel, and he saw the number of free rooms on the sign outside fall from 48 to 37. He shook his head and asked himself, "Is this ever going to change?" Of course, he was frustrated. He did not deserve to be treated differently purely because of his skin color. He put his bags in the trunk and locked his car before heading back into the lobby. It was time for the confrontation, and Charles was determined to get a room for the night. Charles walked into the lobby again with a smile on his face. As soon as the receptionist saw him, the smile on her face immediately disappeared, and she put her mean face back on. "Sir, I already told you I can't help you," she told Charles curtly. He simply nodded and asked, "Still no rooms available for me?" But the woman ignored him and continued typing on her computer. "Very well, I don't mind waiting here for a bit," Charles thought to himself. He walked around the lobby for a few minutes, inspecting the paintings that hung on the walls, and at some point he even got himself a bottle of water and a candy bar from the vending machine in the corner. He was in no hurry to leave. Charles sat down on a chair and ate his candy bar as he thought about just giving up and sleeping in his car. It was just one night, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Of course, he still had no idea that his story was going to blow up and the receptionist would get what she deserved. He waited for the woman to return, but she did not come back for quite a while. Even when an elderly couple entered the lobby, she still did not show up. The couple chatted with Charles for a bit, and as soon as they realized what was going on exactly, they decided to help him. Luckily, there were still plenty of good people left in the world. Finally, the receptionist returned, and she put on her kindest smile for the couple. "Good evening, sir, madam. How can I help you today?" she asked, and she was obviously taken by surprise when she heard what they asked her next. "Miss, is there any way you could help this kind man out and give him a room for the night?" The elderly woman, Mrs. Waverly, subtly activated the recording feature on her phone. Holding it nonchalantly in her lap, she captured Charles's patient voice. "Why can't you understand, sir? We don't have any rooms," the receptionist snapped. Charles, in his calm demeanor, replied, "The sign outside, ma'am, it still indicates availability." Mrs. Waverly's heart ached to hear the receptionist's harsh words. Charles took a deep breath. "Ma'am, I'm just seeking a place to rest for the night," he tried again, but the receptionist was unyielding. "We have our policies, sir," she said evasively. The lobby began to fill with more guests. Some already knew of Charles's plight, while others sensed the palpable tension and sought to understand its origin. Even with increasing attention, the receptionist held her ground. "Sir, please," she said with a note of exasperation, "there's no room for you here." Charles's frustration was evident, but his demeanor remained calm. As yet another guest checked in effortlessly, Charles's predicament became a glaring spotlight on the motel's questionable ethics. The onlookers' collective mood swayed towards indignation. The reception area buzzed with quiet murmurs. Amid this, a young family, a spirited mother, protective father, and their inquisitive toddler, navigated the crowd to reach Charles. The mother stepped closer, her voice gentle yet firm. "If it's all right with you, we'd like you to share our room." Their offer was not just a mere act of sharing. It was a bold statement against the blatant injustice he had endured. Taken aback by the unexpected kindness, Charles felt a knot in his throat. "I can't express how much this means," he responded, his voice quivering. The digital tidal wave was swift and overwhelming. Influential figures and activists amplified Mrs. Waverly's post. As the sun bathed the town in its morning glow, blogs, podcasts, and other platforms featured Charles's ordeal, emphasizing the need for accountability. Mainstream media couldn't ignore the story any longer. Local news stations sent reporters to the motel, seeking statements from all parties involved. Charles's story, once confined to the walls of a motel, now echoed across TV screens nationwide, shedding light on a much larger issue. The backlash was immediate. Bookings at the motel dwindled, and negative reviews poured in. Protesters, holding signs demanding justice, began to gather. Charles stood strong, recounting his ordeal with clarity and grace. The injustice he faced resonated with everyone listening. Mrs. Waverly, an unexpected ally in this saga, and her husband narrated their side, emphasizing the importance of standing against prejudice. The usually confident receptionist now appeared vulnerable under the media's relentless gaze. The sheer scale of the economic implications began to sink in, adding financial worry to an already tarnished reputation. Determined to salvage what remained, the manager called a pivotal meeting. Senior staff gathered, brainstorming strategies to address the issue. They contemplated outreach programs, PR campaigns, and community healing sessions. In the midst of chaos, Charles, with a heart full of resilience and an aim to bring about change, approached the manager. Flyers, schedules, and awareness posters started appearing around the motel, reflecting its renewed commitment to fostering an inclusive environment for all guests. As the training commenced, its effects rippled through the motel. Employees began engaging in more open dialogues. Guests noticed the difference too, as the staff interacted with enhanced empathy and understanding. Absorbing the owner's words, Charles felt an overwhelming blend of validation and hope. He realized that his personal ordeal was now the catalyst for a more significant change, transcending a single incident at a single motel. It was heartening to see that his journey had led to a revolution within a vast establishment. Walking towards his car, memories of the past few days played in Charles's mind. He thought of the elderly couple, the guests, the media, and the young family who had shown unyielding support. The collective power that had enveloped him served as a reminder that, when united, people can overcome the most ingrained prejudices. The motel, once a symbol of prejudice, now stood as a beacon of change. With renewed vigor, Charles drove on, his spirit buoyed by recent events. The motel sign caught his eye as he accelerated away. Fully occupied, it proclaimed, but to Charles it signified more than just occupancy. It was a testament to inclusivity, signaling a place of acceptance for everyone, regardless of their background. A smile played on his lips, acknowledging the profound evolution that had unfolded. Charles's legacy became a beacon for many, inspiring them to challenge age-old biases, proving that change often emerges from quiet yet determined resistance against deep-seated injustices.